Tifauge Castle, western France. Super-rich nobleman Gilles de rais has just had Jean, a young orphan boy, escorted into his private rooms. Jean has been promised a job at the castle, but in fact, he has only minutes to live. Like over 100 boys before him, he will be decapitated by Gilles de rais. His head kept and compared to previous victims.
The story comes from Gilles' own mouth. His confession turning him into a legendary monster fused in the French mind with fairy tale killer Bluebeard.
But why did one of France's richest men turn to murder? Or was he just a fantasist spinning a bloody yarn? Gilles de rais was born in 1404 at Champtocé Castle, western France. Aged 11, his parents died, leaving Gilles 23 castles, a vast fortune, and a seat at society's top table. Aged 36, he was hanged for mass murder.
Today here in modern France, Gilles de rais remains infamous as the real-life Bluebeard, a terrifying serial killer. But I want to look back to the 15th century to find out more about the man himself, but also to discover if he really was as bad as legend suggests.
This is Reims Cathedral. For centuries, the place where French kings were crowned. At the coronation of 1429, Gilles himself was here and given the honor of bringing the holy oil. But why? I've sought the help of Professor Isabelle Houlon-Donat to find out how this sacred task went to the most unholy of men.
This honor is an honor that was given to him because he was Marshal of France.
And what had he done? Why was he made Marshal of France?
He was a very good soldier and a very good leader for the soldier.
So he has this prestigious title, he is admired, but there's no whispers or rumours at this point that he would turn out to be a serial killer or indeed a psychopath?
Now, at the moment, he wasn't at all.
Although Gilles de rais wasn't yet a serial killer, he had seen horrific bloodshed. In the 1420s, Gilles fought with French loyalists to drive out the English in a savage war.
In the land, in the country, in the realm, they did a lot of things. Burning villages, taking food, women. So what Gilles de rais saw, and probably did too, it's quite normal.
It's brutal, but it's normal.
Brutality, normal brutality for the war in the 15th century.
All these soldiers didn't necessarily become serial killers or psychopaths.
Not at all, and only one.
Perhaps war desensitized Gilles and gave him a love of killing, yet it also made him a hero. Another war hero was also given a starring role at the coronation, Joan of Arc. Today, she's a French icon and a saint, whilst we remember Gilles as a sinner without equal.
The picture we have here of Gilles de rais in 1429 is of a young man. He's very wealthy, well-connected, he has this honour bestowed upon him, and he's very, very powerful. And with all that in place, it makes you wonder, what could possibly go wrong?
As Joe has learnt, Gilles had the world at his feet in 1429, but 11 years later, that world fell apart. At Nantes Chateau in 1440, Gilles was placed on trial for the mass murder of well over 100 boys.
I want to understand how Gilles de rais went from war hero to child killer. I'm hoping the answers might lie in the records of his trial.
These documents are held at the regional archives in Nantes, just a kilometre from the location of the trial. The whole case was laboriously transcribed, including the most revealing document of all.
So this is Gilles de rais' confession from his trial in his own words. So let's see what he has to say for himself. Here it says he was asked about the first time that he killed and where he'd done so. And it says that he responds that in the first place it was at Champtocé Castle in the year when his grandfather died. So that's 1432.
Aged 28, Gilles had largely retired from war. Now he was doing his killing at home.
And it says at which place he killed children and had them killed in large numbers.
The perennial question in cases like these is why? It's a question they also asked in the 15th century.
Oh my goodness. And he says that in him it was laziness and the frequent consumption of mulled wine, more than anything else, kept him in a state of excitement that led to the perpetuation of so many sins. He's blaming mulled wine, that Christmas drink. So I guess he's saying that he was drunk a lot, and what he did was out of drunkenness.
Susanna's research reveals Gilles' pathetic excuse for his crimes. But now I want to delve deeper into this monster's mind. I've come to another of Gilles' many castles to meet Professor Mate Kazuku.
Mate, bonjour, ça va?
Bonjour, bonjour.
His groundbreaking biography of Gilles de rais used modern psychology to try and explain his behavior.
These are terrible crimes. Would we classify him as a psychopath today?
The FBI and the specialists say yes, serial killer, organized psychopath. But they can't explain. Neither could he when he was asked during his trial, why did you do that?
To be all-powerful, to be above the law is dangerous, but to be a psychopath as well, the results are unthinkable.
That's an explosive mixture.
Year after year, Gilles got away with abducting and killing kids. The impact on ordinary people outside the castle walls must have been devastating.
So here in Machecoul, it's an ordinary town. There would have been ordinary families, ordinary children, and yet this dark, sinister presence seeped out of the chateau just over there as Gilles de rais' staff rounded up innocent children who would never again see the light of day.
So I know from my visit to the archives that Gilles de rais started committing these crimes back in 1432, but was arrested in 1440. So the question I have is, what changed? How was he caught?
By 1439, the child-killing lord was spending most of his time at yet another castle, 60 kilometres from Machecoul. So what clues can this fortress offer to explain his demise?
It's open like that. Go ahead.
Wow.
Medieval historian Professor Martin Aurel is here to help me with the detective work.
It's very impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's impressive. He
Is that
spent
good?
lots of money doing that.
In the 1430s, Gilles spent vast sums renovating this castle. Such extravagance was typical.
He didn't pay attention to the price of things. He wanted to impress everybody. For instance, he has 800 knights with him all the time.
So, given that he's been spending all this money, where's he getting his money from?
Well, it's very simple. He decided to sell castles because he had so many castles, and in 2 or 3 years he sold 40 castles.
40?
Yeah, it was incredible.
In 1429, Gilles' castles had littered western France. Now he had just 2. Gilles had blown a fortune, but showed no desire to stop living like a king. Then, at a secret location, hidden from prying eyes, Gilles hit upon a cunning plan.
Well, he decided to do black magic, to enter in contact with the devil. And he take his own blood and he signed a pact with him. Of course, it was a pact saying, well, my soul, I don't sell it to you because I want to be safe. But if you can give me riches and power, I accept everything you want from me.
So what exactly did they do?
Well, they took a stick or a knife and they did a circle, which is a circle like that. It's a very, very ancient pagan rite. And afterwards, they were inside and they did little crosses and signs, strange signs. And afterwards, they began to pray the devil to come there. Of course, he never came.
Gilles de rais still wanted his old castles back. Desperate, he kidnapped the brother of one new castle owner. Unfortunately, that brother was also a priest, and Gilles kidnapped him during Mass.
Mass stopped, which was sacrilege. I mean, was very, very bad thing. You are excommunicated. That's why he was at the end captured and carried to Nantes, and everything was came over.
Gilles could kill kids at will, but it was only when he offended the church that he was investigated and his hideous crimes uncovered. The most powerful man in western France, the Duke of Brittany, had Gilles brought to his castle in Nantes. Here, in the autumn of 1440, Gilles was placed on trial. At first, he wouldn't acknowledge the authority of his judges. He called them crooks and lecturers. So they threw him out of the church. They excommunicated him, putting him in peril of his mortal soul. So then he confessed everything. Isn't it ironic that a man who would brutally abuse children found himself coming to the point of confession when faced with the prospect of eternal damnation in hell? That confession means that today we know the full horror and insanity of Gilles de rais. It also led to his death sentence, to be carried out on the 26th of October, 1440. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Gilles was taken from the chateau to a meadow just beyond the castle walls. There he was hanged above a pyre. But before his body could be consumed by the flames, 4 gentlewomen rescued his corpse and took it to a nearby church to bury him. It was a fitting burial for a nobleman, but not one that befitted his status as one of the worst serial killers in French history. No one knows for sure what creates a man like Gilles, but there are plenty of possibilities. The brutalizing effects of war, his love and hatred of children, and the unchecked power of rich lords in medieval France may all have contributed. But whatever the cause, Gilles de rais clearly deserves his monstrous reputation.